we're here.
What's up?
This is CSI Podcast 10. This is Thursday, September 18th, 2014. This will be released on Friday, September 19th. And I'm here with my friend, Mark Griffin.
Let me tell you about this one time in the last.
Mr. Griffin could not be here tonight. He's out of town on a trip. But Justin and I are here. We're going to hold down the fort, get this podcast done, and hopefully talk about some interesting stuff. So with that, we'll talk about a little industry news. Not a whole lot going on really in the last 2 weeks, Justin, that I've noticed. Torsten Homan defeats Gomez in the Pacquiao Cup, which admittingly, I didn't know what the Pacquiao Cup was, but it was a tournament apparently
Philippines.
Put on in the Philippines by Manny Pacquiao. Had 92 players, and Torsten Homan defeats Gomez.
Yeah, I followed it mainly on Facebook through Max Eberle's page. He was posting a lot of photographs, some of the tournament stuff, but the cool thing he was posting up was a lot of the like the pool rooms that have 3 walls and open to the street and and stuff like that. He posted one video of Manny Pacquiao and Ronnie Alcano playing partners against Dennis, and I forget who he was playing, whose Dennis partner it was. But really cool. And anytime you get a guy like Pacquiao, he loves the game, but when he puts his name on it, it's a good thing. Big deal.
Cool.
The tournament venue looked like it was in a gym of some sort. Did you see any pictures of the tournament?
I did not.
Yeah, it looked like it was in a gym or something like that. I don't know where it was held. Unfortunately, I don't have much details on it. I didn't see much of it really.
Not a whole lot of coverage.
Yeah.
I kind of caught it on AZ Billiards. But so congratulations to Torsten Homan. Also, I noticed that Mike DeShane won the 2014 Eastern States Championship. And from what I could tell, that's a tournament that perhaps used to be pretty big on the East Coast. Kind of fell off the radar for a while, and now it's being revived.
That's good.
Can't remember how many players they had, but the implication from the article was it wasn't a huge tournament, but they had a couple good players. Big name
10-ball,
players.
9-ball tournament, you know what game it was?
It's a good question.
Yeah, I don't know.
Don't know.
I didn't.
But Mike DeShane wins yet another tournament.
Yeah. It's hard to
And
beat.
finally, this one did get some press. And really, it wasn't because of who won.
Yeah.
It was because of who came in second. Darren Appleton wins the American 14.1 Championships over Karen Core. That tournament has always been called the Maryland 14.1 Championships.
Okay, that rings a bell because
It was the Maryland 14.1, but unfortunately, or fortunately, depending on your perspective, they found themselves without a venue in Maryland. So they moved it down to a place that's near and dear to my heart, Diamond Billiards in Midlothian, Virginia. Fantastic room. And they changed the name to American 14.1 Championships. They always get a lot of big name players, and they did this year as well. And Darren Appleton won this year in pretty convincing style, actually. But that wasn't really what made the press. What made the press was Karen Core, top female pro, came in second. Along the way, she beats Mike DeShane 125 to -2. That's strong, no matter how much you slice it.
That's always been a long time argument about women playing with men, and that's always the one that comes up as well. If there is a game that they should be able to play dead even, it's straight pool.
Mm-hmm.
There's no power, there's no break shot there. So Karen made a great run. She's a phenomenal player. Awesome person too.
Given the players they had, that's second place is impressive.
Yeah. No, it's good to see her go deep. Is she playing Turning Stone too?
She is. And in fact, there's a comment about that a little bit later.
Yeah, it's good.
Yep. So Karen's back in action, it looks like.
Yeah.
Didn't hear much from her for a while, but looks like she's back at it.
Yeah. Congrats to Darren for his win. He's coming off, his life has been really busy lately. He just got married not too long ago, new home. So even on Facebook the other day, he mentioned he's ready to get back in the pool and start focusing on his game. And when Darren's focused, he's dangerous. He can win a lot of stuff.
It's dangerous when he's not focused.
Yeah, but when he's, now he's, it'll be interesting, because we're seeing that can change players big time. You know, when they change lifestyles. You take a guy who's been on the road for the last 6 years, pretty much. January of 2008 was the first time that I really saw Darren like spending a whole lot of time in the U.S., and that was in Derby in like February or whatever. But since then, 6 years, the guy's been going nonstop. Mm-hmm. So, and in that time, he's moved from the UK to the US. So now he has a home, he's married. We'll see how that affects his game. I think it'll just make it stronger because he's focused now. He knows what he wants. And he's in the time of his career now where he's really going to build his legacy. He's already established himself as a world champion. And I think now, the next 10 years is where guys like him really do some amazing things. I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I was talking to him during the Andy Mercer Memorial out here in Vegas a few months ago, and he was engaged at that point. And he mentioned getting married, and I said, hey, man, come on in. The water's fine.
Right.
Congratulations to him and Angie Appleton.
Yeah.
So now we'll move on to upcoming CSI events.
There's
We've
a lot
actually
going
got
on.
a bunch. Now, let me caveat this next segment. When we say upcoming CSI events, some of these are produced and conducted by CSI. Some of these are not. They're conducted by other entities that are affiliated with us, and we support them in one or more ways. But we'll go in chronological order. October 9 through 12, CueMaster Billiards, Virginia Beach, Virginia, will be the BCAPL Virginia Beach Regional Championships. And there's the banner produced by none other than Mr. Justin Collett. Again, BCA Pool League members, and we've got a pretty large league down there. Any BCA Pool League member eligible to play, call Tiger Baker. He is the tournament director. 757-472-8874. Again, you can find this and all the other information on that tournament on our website, playbca.com. That ought to be a fun tournament.
Is it right in front of the Open or the weekend before?
It's the weekend right before the U.S. Open 9-ball. So this is, if I remember right, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. U.S. Open starts Monday.
Oh, that's cool.
Really cool.
Yeah.
So get more for your buck going down to Virginia Beach and enjoy that event.
Right. And now how does that work? They can, if they're not, is that open to like the $25 member?
Yeah, that tournament you can participate one of two ways. You can already be a BCA Pool League member, or if you're not a member, some people live in areas that just don't have a league.
Right.
You can purchase, it used to be called a player membership. It's now called a CSI associate membership. $25, make you eligible to play in any of those events. Have singles and Scotch doubles.
And so that's $25 for the year, right?
For a whole year.
So you can play in different regionals.
Absolutely.
That's cool.
Good deal.
Yeah.
Second on the list, right behind that one, but on the opposite side of the country, it's the 17th Annual Western BCA 9-Ball Championships. That will be October 13 through 19 at the Chinook Winds Casino Resort in Lincoln City, Oregon. Western BCA is a huge organization in Oregon, and we're happy to have them on board. They sanction with the BCA Pool League, but they're having their 9-ball championships October 13 through 19. They usually get a ton of people up there. Now, you have to be a Western BCA Pool League member to play in that event.
So that doesn't fall under the same?
That does not fall under that same category.
All right.
Next up, November 9 through 16, the Tornado Alley BCAPL Regional 8-Ball Championships.
Nope.
You got that wrong one up there, Steve.
Yeah.
We've got the Tornado Alley Regional 8-Ball Championships, November 9 through 16.
You're fired, Steve.
That will be at First Council Casino in Newkirk, Oklahoma. And right behind that is one actually conducted by us.
Colorado.
We'll be sending two guys from the office to run this event. It's the BCAPL USAPL Colorado Regional 8-Ball Championships. November 14 through 16, that'll be at Greenfields Pool and Sports Bar in Lakewood, Colorado, and that's just outside of Denver. We're going to have Scotch doubles, singles, men and women's. So get on out to Denver, check out that event. And if you see Steve and Quan, just say hi. Tournament Director Extraordinaire. The weekend after that, these guys in the office are going to be busy. This is another one conducted by us. Again, opposite side of the country. It's the USA Pool League, BCA Pool League, Florida Regional 8-Ball Championships. That'll be at, it's a new location this year, Trick Shots Metro West in Orlando, Florida, November 21 through 23. And finally, a non-league tournament.
One of my favorite events.
Go ahead. Lead it
It's
off.
the 2015 or the 22nd annual U.S. Bar Table Championships, the Grand Sierra Resort in Reno, Nevada. Going to be doing 10-ball, 9-ball, 8-ball in that order. 5,000 added per division, men's and women's. Women's has got, I forget what the added money is.
1,000 added, 16.
Yeah, 16 women, you get 1,000 added. There's also going to be some all-around bonuses, but this year this is going to be the third year there, and the first 2 years have been great. The venue's out of this world, man. It's really, especially compared to where it was for the first 19 years or whatever. But it's one of my favorite tournaments. It's really cool.
Yeah, I say this year, back in February was the first year I attended. That venue is phenomenal.
Yeah.
And more importantly, we have a lot of room to grow.
Oh, for sure.
At that venue. And Grand Sierra, I think, is committed to us.
Yeah.
To help us grow that event.
That's, that area has got a lot of players, and there's a lot of players to draw from. Just like, I think 2007 was the first time I went out to the bar table, and I've been back every year since. But the group of people that it draws from, you get the guys like Stan Tarango and Glenn Atwell, and all top players from that from the whole West Coast, and then you also get just a lot of players from LA come up. All the people from Northern California will come over, and it's cool. This year, I'm kind of sweating the dates a little bit. I don't know how that's going to work. I'm hoping if we can explain to people how nice this hotel is, it won't have an effect. It's on Valentine's Day, the first weekend. It's on Valentine's Day weekend. But, not a bad way to take a little trip if you come to this hotel. It's a beautiful place, man.
I thought the same thing at first when those dates were offered up, that it could be a negative. And we started thinking about it, though. It's actually, the place is so nice, and there's so much to do there. It would actually be a fantastic getaway for a couple. I mean, it's not like you're going to be playing pool 12 hours a day if you're in the event.
Well, and that's the other thing we did last year with the scheduling. They changed it last year. Before that, they were running matches till 12, 1 o'clock in the morning. It was brutal. Nobody likes that stuff, man. And then this year, last round was started at, I want to say 7, maybe 6. We were usually out of there by 9 o'clock.
Yeah, we were. Yeah.
So, and that gives people. The restaurants are still open. You still go get dinner. There's so much stuff to do just in that casino. They've got a big ass bowling alley that a lot of people like going to. So you got time when you're done playing to go out, and then also the room stays open. And it's a greens fee tournament, so you don't got to plug quarters if you want to play after the tournament's over. So it's a good event. It's a really good event.
And two things I want to point out about that event that are really, really important. One, there's been a lot of confusion over the years about this tournament. This is not a league championship. You don't have to be a league member, any of that. This is open to anyone.
Yeah. And like this, you don't have to pay that $25 fee.
No, you don't.
Yeah.
Nope.
You just roll in and you're welcome to play.
So anybody can play in this tournament. Spread the word. This tournament needs to grow. It's been growing steadily with very little effort. over the years.
They do a second chance tournament for each division as well, too.
Not only do we do a second chance, but there's 500 added in each second chance.
Yeah. So if you want to play some more, say you get, you don't make the money and you want to play, what's the entry for second chance?
You're putting me on the spot.
I don't know.
I'd have to defer
Not
to my
much.
doc. Yeah, it's a cheap, and we add just to encourage more participation, so everybody will have a good time. But
And I think, pretty sure Rick and those guys run minis at night
Yep.
when they can. So if you want to come just play pool, there's a lot of pool to be played, but there's also a lot of other stuff to do at that hotel. Some really nice restaurants. I don't know. I can't say enough about it. It's just really cool to get a pool event and that kind of facility.
Yep. Second thing I want to point out, and a lot of places don't take advantage of these kinds of opportunities or events, but if you own a room or you know someone that owns a room, or maybe you just want to have something in the room that you play in, hold a qualifier for this thing.
Yeah.
The entry fee for each event is $150. So a person can play in all 3 events for $450. That spans the course of a week.
Yeah.
And you still have the second chance events, the minis. Hold a qualifier in your room. $25 qualifier, X number of players. Winner gets a trip to Reno or entry fee at the U.S. bar table in Reno.
Yeah.
It's a great way to get people to go to the room, get some traffic in the room, and give people a nice prize and an experience that they'll take back with them. So if you're interested in holding a qualifier, call us at the office, 702-719-7665, or you can just email me directly, Ozzy@playcsipool.com. Going to be a great event, and that's going to be February 16th and through the 22nd, 2015. Seems like a ways off, but it'll be here before you know it.
It'll be real fast.
Yep. We're already thinking about nationals next year.
Yeah. No, you have to.
That's come up in conversation already.
Yeah, you have to.
Yeah.
It's crazy how fast it comes around.
Those are the events, and while that might bore some people that may not particularly be league players, what it should highlight to everybody is when you're a BCA Pool League member or a USA Pool League member, there are lots of events you can play in outside of the national championships. We do lots of stuff all year long, all over the country and Canada. And we're actually looking at Mexico and China, and
Good.
we're branching. So
Numbers is where it's at, man.
Yep.
The more people, the better.
So now this is probably going to be Justin's favorite part of our podcast.
Go ahead. You're on probation, but it's okay.
No. We're not there yet.
We can do that one.
We're going to talk about general discussion. This is probably what most people are going to like most, just general discussion, talking about the pool industry.
This is where we complain a little bit.
So this is where I stop being a salesman and we just talk.
Mm-hmm.
And Justin's going to tell Alaska stories and complain about people on the internet.
Nope.
No?
Nope.
I thought you were filling in for Mark.
Nope.
No.
Can't swing it like you can, man.
I hear you. Okay, so what I thought we'd talk about, Justin, is some negative influences. And some of these are my opinion. And Justin, you'll elaborate, share your opinion. But some negative influences, what I see, negatives in the pool industry. And also some positives, and then maybe talk a little bit about our future plans at a 10,000-foot level. With that, what do you think some of the negative influences are on the pool industry in general?
As far as influences, I don't know. I guess it all depends on it goes back to the same old thing. What's wrong with pool? I guess it depends on what you want out of it. If you're a professional and you want to make a living at it, then there's one set of stuff wrong with pool. I think right now, if you're an amateur, you're in a pretty good spot because, it seems like every time you turn around, there's a new league popping up, and for a consumer, competition is good because it drives people to provide a better product. I know for a fact I'm seeing that here. Especially since you came in, it's looking around and trying to find out, okay, what can we offer a consumer or a customer that makes them want to come with us and stay with us instead of, any one of 4 or 5 competitors. And then how do you grow that brand? So I think on the amateur side, pool's pretty good. You know, I mean, it's equipment's always getting cheaper, which, you know, it's not necessarily a great thing for people in the industry. But once again, from their point of view, from a consumer going in wanting to buy something, you know, I don't think as an amateur pool player it's that bad. You know, now you start talking about the pro side of the game, which is where I've spent most of the last, you know, 8 years of my life fooling with. It's bad. And I don't think it's going to get better anytime soon. I think it's going to get different. We're starting to see that already with the high entry fee tournaments. You know, the days of the big money added events and there being 10 BCA $25,000 added points events in this country are over with, and I think we'll never see them come back, at least in that form. So I think it's going to get really, really hard for the pros. But again, for the overall health of the game, I don't think that. I mean, it's not good, but sometimes for something to be healthy, you got to kind of cut away. You know,
you got to trim the fat sometimes.
Yeah, and part of what the problem has been, in my opinion, with pro pool, especially in this country, there is no bar to entry. And I've said this 100 times, but I believe it, and that is, you go look around. You know, I guarantee anybody that watches this, you've all met that guy when you tell him you like playing pool, and he says, "Oh yeah, man, I put myself through college playing pool." I mean, I've met at least 100 of those guys, and I know none of them could hold a cue. But that mindset of, oh, well, yeah, I mean, I know 5 guys that say they're pros.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And everybody says they're a pro and this or that, but there's no bar to entry. And I think what we're going to see now, and the reason there's been no bar to entry is the fact that all the pro tournaments have been open tournaments that relied on that dead money to feed the prize fund. And so they weren't pro tournaments. They were open tournaments that had pro level players playing in them. So what we're seeing now is that $2,000-$3,000 entry fee is not some kind of official, you got to be a member of an organization bar to entry. That's a much more effective bar to entry in that if you don't think you're good enough to win, nobody's going to go fire $2,000 at a tournament.
You know another side effect of that? And I've heard people say, and I don't know if this has any validity whatsoever, but I've heard people say that, and we're talking pro pool. It's another thing with pool. You got to clearly define amateur and pro because they're so different.
Yeah.
But if you're talking pro pool, a lot of people have said, well, the downfall started when people have said casinos started popping up everywhere, or poker became popular because the money shifted to something else. And when you get these high entry fee tournaments, these $2,000, $5,000, $10,000 entry fee tournaments, pool players don't have that money.
Right.
Most of them don't. So they have to go get the outside money. So it may actually start bringing in some of that, we call it backer money, back into the game. And that might actually be very beneficial.
Yeah, I mean, anytime you get money around the game in any form, it's good. It's, you know, and it ties into something we'll talk about here in a minute, but a point just popped into my head. But, I think, you know, that's what I see now at the pro game is it's flat, and I think we're pretty close to bottom. You know, you see some bright spots here and there. Matchroom did a deal with ESPN to show the World Pool Masters, I guess is what it is, the team tournament, on ESPN3, which automatically, you know, the initial reaction is all the Ocho. It's on the Ocho. You know, I mean, what's up with that? But it means Matchroom and ESPN are talking.
Yeah.
And, you know, that World Pool event is not their premier tournament. It's the Mosconi Cup. So if they're talking in the same room and they're not butting heads, that's good. I mean, if the Mosconi Cup is only on ESPN3, it's still available to however many millions more people than it was before, you know. So, I mean, they did get it on last year some, which is awesome. But so stuff like that is you know, good. But as far as, a tour or any type of organization in the U.S. to try to develop pro pool, it's not going to be there. And the only way it ever will be there is if it's based and supported by an amateur league. And that is where, and then you've got to jump that whole hurdle of an amateur player saying, I don't want a dime of my money to go to a pro tour.
Right.
And I think a lot of that is in how you sell it. And I think a lot of that, and I think, I've got an idea of how to do it. We've talked about in this office a whole lot. It's just over the years, it's just, for the last 5 years, man, it just seems like every time the pro game in the United States could do anything, it just went the wrong way.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's not beating on the players. I'm just talking about the game as a whole. Be it promoters, players, everybody involved in making decisions on, where the game went. If you could have turned left and been good, every time they went right. I mean, it's just, it's really bad. Because I've spent, like I said, most of the last 10 years, that's all I paid attention to and thought about day in and day out was how to.
Why didn't you make them go left? You're a big guy.
That's another thing. And that's not just pro game. That's this whole industry. And everybody will say it, and you see it over and over again. They don't say it this way. They say it's, there's no organization. People don't work together. All that is a way to say one thing, and that's there's no leadership. People don't just spontaneously come together and say, hey, let's put aside the fact that we both do the same thing and we're both trying to make money in a zero-sum game and kumbaya go forward. The world doesn't work like that, But real leaders are able to bring people together and say, hey, look, our pie is this big right now. Maybe if we pull in the same direction and we go up here, maybe next year our pie is a little bit bigger. And so everybody makes something. But in the past, in pool, especially the pro side, every time a leader has stepped up, or for the most part, every time somebody steps up and goes, hey, follow me, they lead them right off a cliff. And so now what happens is after the players have been burned so many times, after people that actually have disposable income and money that could take a shot, I know guys out there that have got enough money in 1 year what they buy in cues to fund a pro tournament.
Yeah.
But you even bring it up to them and they laugh at you. Mm-hmm. I've had people literally laugh in my face when I start talking about doing something with pro pool. And these are guys that love the game. Love it. Been playing it for 40 years, But to me, that if there's one single thing I can put my finger on that this industry needs more than anything else, it's leadership in some way, shape, or form. And I don't know how you get it, and I don't know even if you got it, if people would follow, just because the scar tissue is so thick from the last 30 years.
I think if that true leader existed, it would happen, but it would take some time.
Well, the only way it would work is if literally, I've said this to the pro players, and I've had conversations with these guys, and I've told them, I said, look, man, what you guys really have to do is you got to look around. Nobody's going to do it for the pro players. There's not enough money in it. Mm-hmm. There's just not enough money in it for somebody to come in and risk, because let's be honest, most of the pros want it all. They want to walk into $10,000, $50,000 tournaments, mm-hmm. and that's on the low end, you know. So, and that's never going to happen. But if you look around PBR, Pro Bull Riders, look at how the skateboarding teams in the 80s, 70s and 80s, how they got started. The NASCAR in the 40s was started in a bar. Mm-hmm. And without the play, nobody can do it with the players right now. if you and I said, hey, look, this is what we're going to do. Here's our plan. Oh, and by the way, players, you're going to have an ownership stake, but for the first 5 years, your prize fund is going to be what you draw on the gate. They'd look at you like you're crazy. And you know, and the way I look at it is, you know, maybe that's so, but the flip side is, people, you know, what something costs, it's worth what somebody will pay for it.
Yep.
Right there it is.
Yep.
You know, so.
Well, here's some of the thoughts I had, and these are a little more focused on the amateur side because I believe, one, I think you're right, amateur pool is alive and well. Mm-hmm. There are some problems, though. But I think if you grow the amateur side, the base of it's the base of the pool industry, is the amateur players.
Everything depends
like
on
you and I.
Yeah.
That's what supports the whole industry. If you grow that, solidify that, you can actually start to form something that may be meaningful and flow up to the pro level. I think for years we've tried to, I say we, the U.S. in general has tried to just throw money and throw ideas at the pro side and thinking it would.
No, it doesn't work from the top down.
No.
It's got to go the other way.
So here are some thoughts I had on the amateur side. If you disagree, we haven't even talked about this. Feel free. One, I think there's a lot of fragmentation. And you're right, Justin, on one side that's good because it forces you to produce a better product. I'm a capitalist kind of guy. I got that. However, it's so fragmented right now, it's just tough for anybody to really grab that leadership position. Now, it'll happen over the course of time. But, wow, man, you said it yourself when we started talking about these leagues. You had no idea all these leagues existed. There are tons and tons of leagues. Those are the national ones. Look at the local level. Yeah. There are these little local cash leagues all over the place, which I'll get to in a minute. But so much fragmentation, too much of it's bad. And I ran into the same thing when I was running the Action Pool Tour. You get a tour here, and you get a player on your tour says, oh, I'm going to start my own tour. Yeah. You get 5 players in one area, and they all want to start their own tour. Well, you know, some players will go here, some players will go there, some over here. Then you have 5 tours that aren't drawing enough to make it worthwhile. They all shut down. Yeah. It's just not a good situation.
But to me, that's where it comes back to, you know, it's a leadership challenge for one. But the other thing is, at some point, you know, if we can't, if anyone in the industry can't overcome that, because it's that way in everything. You know, I mean, it's that way, especially now with, you know, the bar to entry to business is so low. Everybody's got a print shop and a social media department and, you know, everything in their phone. You know, I mean, they can do everything. You can do everything to build a small business from your phone. And, you know, people get that idea. And that's the other thing I've noticed a lot more in pool than other things I've been involved in is people in pool, you know, they'll see a tournament and they'll see 50 guys there and they paid $50 a piece and they'll sit there and they'll go, that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know, and they don't think, you know, some don't, you know, some do. But another thing, like, perfectly baffles me. I mean, I love them. I love the companies that do this. How many pool T-shirt companies are there?
Yeah.
I mean, I used to run one. I stopped because it was terrible.
You didn't like those huge margins you made on those T-shirts?
It's sick. It's sick. And what's crazy is Cleary did one. You know, I mean, like, I've got like 4 buddies.
Were they all pink? Were they all pink and purple?
No, if he would have done that, he might still be cranky.
Probably.
But no, I mean, I agree 100% with what you're saying. I guess my point would be that to jump that hurdle, eventually somebody's just got to have a product that makes a player go, well, I get this from these guys. And since there's no money in it, how do you provide a tangible benefit without a bunch of cash? And to me, that comes down to either prestige. Somebody feels like, people love to identify with stuff.
Yep.
They love to wrap themselves in brands and things like that.
And this point is actually going to segue into something else I've got. So let's just jump right there. I think another problem on the amateur side of things is how much we all, and we're guilty of it too.
Yeah.
All right, we're not innocent, but how much we all in the industry, we always emphasize the money added. Yeah. What does that really mean?
On the amateur side.
Yeah, I mean, and trust me, folks, I know some of you are probably saying, oh, well, you're running a pool business, so yeah, you want us to think that money doesn't matter. That's not it at all. But when that becomes the sole focus, when the added money becomes the sole focus of the event, what do you really have? You have a bunch of players that care more about how much money you added to the tournament rather than having a good time and playing the game and being some kind of champion. Maybe you're the 2015 or the 22nd annual U.S. Bar Table champion. Yeah. What's that worth to you? Right. Would you rather have the cash? I mean, you're going to win cash when you win that event, but is it about the prestige of the event and the sport and having a good time? If you're an amateur, I'm not talking about if you're a pro.
Right.
All right. These, like myself, I don't make my living playing pool. If I did, I'd be about 50 pounds. I'd starve to death. But to me, playing pool, we all started playing because we loved it. And it was fun, and it's an addictive game. It's not all about the money. Yes, everybody has a budget. That's understandable. So do I. But quite frankly, when I look at a tournament, I don't look at a tournament in Southern California, for example, and say, it's a 4.5-hour drive. They're only adding $1,500. I don't care about that. I'm going to play pool. Yeah. I want to play in a tournament. And if I don't want to play in a tournament, I just don't go. But the money has nothing to do with it.
Right, exactly.
And we emphasize it so much that even people that ordinarily wouldn't care about the money added becomes the central focus. Yep. And I think that's a problem.
I agree 100%, man. And there's people out there that's going to say exactly what you said in the beginning. Oh, you guys put on pool tournaments. Of course you're going to say that. But look at it, man. I mean, anybody that's been in this game long, I mean, look around at your area. Are more or less people playing pool now than 5 years ago? And when you go to events, there's a mindset. Like, you go to certain events, and it's like, fun, like nationals. You go to nationals when the teams are there, there's a great majority of those people that if they finish in the top 100, they feel like, hell yeah, man. Yeah. They come to have a good time, to enjoy themselves, spend time with friends, and that's part of it. And there's people there that want to excel as well, and I think that needs to be a big part of it. But I've seen so many times friends of mine, follow them through the tournament, and they're playing hard. They want to win. They're there to excel. They're not there, they're there to compete. And they get there, and I've had them do better than they thought. They've beat people they didn't think they were going to beat. They've had new personal records, achieved new highs playing the game in competition. But when it's all over, they don't say, oh, man, they get knocked out in 15th, 16th, whatever place. They don't go, oh, man, I went farther than I think I did. I reached a new level in my game. You know what they do? They look at that check and they go, $200. This sucks.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So you've taken this experience that you've worked hard and sacrificed for to compete at something, and then instead of focusing on what you did right, they zero right in on that, and now I've just started calling guys out on it. So what did you expect?
Yeah.
I mean, did you think if you came here you were going to make $10,000?
Well, Justin, you did an interview during our BCA Pool League National Championships with Kelly Isaac.
Awesome interview.
She won, not one, but two of the women's events. Women's Open 8-ball and 9-ball, I believe. And Justin did an interview with her, and it's actually up on our websites now, playbca.com or playcsipool.com, either one.
I'll link it in this description too.
I
think
want
a lot of people need to watch this.
I want everybody to watch that. It's very brief. It's just a couple minutes. Justin asked her a series of questions, but her answers, in my opinion, and Kelly, if you ever see this, I want to applaud you. Your answers epitomize what amateur pool players should be.
Absolutely, 100%.
And total class. I don't know Kelly, never met Kelly. I watched that interview and I was completely impressed. And if everybody thought like Kelly, this game would be better off.
Yes.
Check out that interview.
For sure.
Now, I'll tell you the biggest problem I think we have in the pool industry, and I'm talking really the whole industry. This involves amateur and pro together. We have an aging pool population.
Yeah, number one,
and
for sure.
Folks, kids aren't playing pool.
No, number two behind leadership maybe, but yeah.
Now, you can email me and say, no, my kid plays pool. Well, yeah, but by and large, young people aren't playing pool anymore. So you ask yourself why. And I don't have market research. We didn't go out and do $1 million study to confirm any of this, but I just started thinking, why aren't young people playing pool anymore? Here are some of the things that I came up with. One, I kind of look at myself. I'm a sample size of one, but I grew up playing in an arcade. It was an arcade that had some pool tables, and that's really how I got introduced to the game. How many arcades are in the country anymore? They're gone. Why are they gone? Phones, PlayStation, Nintendo, the rise of the video age, the internet. And I'm not saying all that stuff is bad, but they've taken over the video game scene, and people don't need to leave the house anymore for that. So I think fewer people are introduced to pool through that way. Again, this kind of segues, it's just a general lack of interest. I mean, if you've got every game imaginable at your fingertips on a little box this big, why leave the house?
Right. Oh, and that's the attitude. And you know what? It's not just pool that's going through this. Go look at numbers for Little League Baseball. Go look at. I was reading the blog last night. A guy was talking about. It was a fitness blog, and a guy's talking about why are kids fatter today than when he was a kid.
That's it.
And he made a great point. And I mean, when I was a kid, it was the same way. In the summertime, you were on your bike, we were playing baseball. We were always outside in the summertime. And I lived in the Midwest. So that was like your time to go crazy, because in the wintertime, you're stuck,
Yep.
But it was, but I remember that as a kid, I mean, we were always doing something. We were in the woods or, playing ball or whatever, always doing something. But now, it's like in the neighborhood I live in, you don't really see kids playing outside, I mean, and I don't know, and I really don't think it's back in my day type of thing. I really don't think it's that. It's just been that giant of a shift with how young people, look at what they enjoy doing.
Yeah. Another side effect of that, Justin, with the rise of phones and video games and the internet, is social interaction is taking a back seat. Particularly, I always kind of chuckled. I thought being able to talk on the phone and then the advent of texting was backwards.
Yeah.
You would think texting would have come first, and then people would have been typing messages to each other, and then, holy crap, I can now just talk to you. No, it's backwards. We don't talk anymore. I can't tell you how many times I've seen people send a text. I used to work in an office building. People would text or email each other. That's right, sitting right back there.
Yeah.
Instead of just sitting up and saying, "Hey, Bob."
Right.
There's no interaction. People don't talk. It's all text. It's all email. You don't have to go through that social interaction process. There's no emotion involved, and you don't have to have any courage if you're saying something that the other person may not like. So that lack of social interaction makes people just not want to go out and do stuff anymore. And the consequence of that is a lot of pool rooms are closing. I'm not saying this is a whole problem, but I think it's part of the problem. A lot of rooms are closing.
I mean, let's be honest about the whole pool room thing. What really, truly got it, in my opinion, and once again, it's based on seeing it all across the country, is two things. If you look at what the pool room was the last 40, 50 years, it was, if guys wanted to gamble, they go to the pool room, they could bet on pool. There was always a card game going. They play gin. Some guys would play dice. But if you want to go, if that's where you wanted to go, and hang out, and gamblers would go there because they could get action to pool rooms. Well, I knew it was bad when, like 2007, 2008, I walk in a pool room. There's 5 guys in there on laptops playing poker.
Yeah.
And then you walk in. I've seen it 10 times. It's a joke. You still see it on Facebook pop up, especially nationals or anytime there's a big tournament somewhere. Walk through the poker room back at the Riv, and there's 5 world pool champions all sitting around playing poker.
Yeah.
And they're the worst poker players on the face of the planet. And they'd be better off giving you the 5 out. Because they can outrun the nuts.
Right.
You can't outrun the nuts playing poker.
Thanks for the vote of confidence.
No, I'm just saying. They're not supposed to win that game, but they can.
Right.
They have a chance. They can outrun the nuts.
Right.
Perfect example, big nasty story time. I don't have a Griffinisms thing, but I'll tell you a little nastyism. Shane was playing dice at the Sands in 07, 08, something like that. And Nasty was always on him to give up the dice. You got to give that dice up, man. Stop it. And, Shane was young, and he was like, that goofy laugh he does. And finally, Nasty had this, you never met him. This guy was a giant. He puts his arm around Shane and goes, "Hey, how many people have ever walked up to you and asked you to sign their dice?" Do what you're good at. You know what I mean?
Right.
But that goes back to once that happened, and once that was taken away from pool rooms, where now, I read a stat somewhere that like anywhere in the continental United States, you're within like an 8-hour drive of a casino. Mm-hmm. Most places less than 4.
Yep.
But, once you take that away, now, that was a driving force for a lot of that. Mm-hmm. And don't kid yourself, man. A lot of smaller pool rooms were able to keep the doors open because they had some cherry machines stashed in the back.
Right.
That's just the truth. So that's one reason why I think a lot of the rooms are closing. The other one is the economy's in the tank. Everybody's doing bad. Mm-hmm. And perfect example, man. I was talking to a friend of mine in Boston this week, and he was talking about, this ties into 2 things actually. He was talking about wanting to open a pool room in Boston. This guy's successful. He's got means. It's not somebody, living in his car talking about a dream of opening a pool room. This guy's a business guy. He's smart. Like I said, he has resources. He could do it if he wanted to, but he's not just going to jump in blind and set his money on fire. Mm-hmm. So we were talking about it, and we got to talking about different things. Most of the people that want to own pool rooms, and I told him, I said, look, man, the way I would look at it is you're not going in the pool room business. You're going in the bar and restaurant business because that's what's going to pay your bills, especially in a market like Boston.
Yep.
If you want to have some pool tables in there and have it a pool theme, awesome, good for you. If I can help, I will. But if I were you, I wouldn't go into it with a mindset of opening a pool room. I would go into it with a mindset of opening a bar and restaurant. And we were talking about it, and I said, let's say you're going to do, the Boston Bar and Restaurant, whatever. And you're going to do a place, and it's going to do 1,200 square feet. And you can do just X number in a bar. If you just open a bar and restaurant in there, and you did $10,000 a month, whatever, random number just to work with, $10,000 a month, and that 1,200 square feet. Now, say you want to put 20 pool tables in there, let alone 29 footers. Now you do that. Now you've went from 1,200 square feet at $10,000 a month gross. Now you're at what? 10,000 square feet?
Yeah.
And maybe you make $12,000 a month now.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't, just the numbers.
That's right.
Very rarely, when you start talking, especially 9-foot tables. And now, if you look around, most successful pool rooms I see, mostly bar tables. They'll have 4 or 5 9-footers, maybe 2 sometimes.
Maybe none.
Yeah, but and they bang on the leagues. They need, because any type pool, any type of retail business is about bodies.
Yep.
Just how many bodies can you get through the door? So that I think the days of the old big pool rooms with, you walk in and there's 15, 20 9-footers, they're gone, man. I don't think they're ever going to come back.
You can buy one in Virginia Beach right now for $2 million.
Yeah. Nice.
And the only rooms that are able to stay open are the ones that have liquor license.
Absolutely.
And gaming and other
But
things.
like I said,
and
you're
kids,
opening a bar and a restaurant.
And kids can't go there.
Right.
So that's just another contributor of why younger people just aren't picking up the game. I'll tell you another thing I think is a negative trend. And I say this tongue-in-cheek because we're an organization that owns and operates leagues. But I had the same conversation with a league operator that called me today. Nice guy. We had a good conversation. But he made the comment, and he says, he says, I pay back 100% in my league. And he was telling me he had multiple locations, and he's got a secretary and a treasurer, and they've got a separate bank account, and he does it right. He does a good job. And I said, wait a minute. You do all this, and you have X number of players, and it wasn't a huge league, but he had bodies he had to deal with. I said, you do all that for nothing? Mm-hmm. I mean, there's no membership fee, no anything. You pay back 100%. He said, yeah, that's right. I do it for the love of the game. I said, well, I really commend you for that. Very admirable what you're doing. I said, but in my opinion, that could be negative in the long run. And here's why. It's not about taking
because eventually he's going to go, I don't feel like doing this anymore.
Well, that's one thing. But also what it does is when people get things for free, they are no longer willing to pay for it. Ever. So as more league operators do that, they donate their time and energy and effort and sometimes money out of their pocket. And nothing has to be paid for. What would make that player, say he's got 100 players, will those 100 players ever play in a league where they have to pay a dime again? Many of them will not.
Yeah.
Because, hey, this should be free. I got it for free then, it should be free now.
Well, to me, then that goes back to if you're doing what we're doing and you're selling pool, then you've got to demonstrate value. Because I do believe that if people feel like they're getting something that they can't get somewhere else, or even more powerful if they want to be a part of something, the money we're talking about here is chicken feed. It's not even a nice dinner. Hell, it's a dinner at a fast food place. You're talking $10 to $30 most places.
Without having it supersized.
Yeah, it's just, it's no money. It's just the idea. I understand what you're saying. That it's a paradigm. It's it's like, and they can be changed, but.
Well, that's the thing. He is giving his players great value.
Yeah.
And I'd love to play in his league.
Right.
And that's something that I think his players would be willing to pay for, assuming he would get a modest compensation for his effort. We're all entitled to compensation for your effort. I mean, nobody watching this is going to go to work for free,
right?
Nor will we expect you to. And he is offering value, but because he's giving it away, it makes it harder for anybody else to be compensated for their efforts.
Yeah.
And then where does that lead in the long run? The other problem I see, and I've said this before, and I think you actually disagree with this, and I'm speaking more on an amateur level, but this trend that we've seen to make the game harder and harder and harder, I don't think is good for the industry overall. No. Now, if you're talking about top-level pros, it's debatable. On an amateur level, and I had this conversation, I'm kind of showing my cards a bit, but at Southwest Regional, 7-foot tables, pro-cut pockets. I saw a lot of people hit shots pretty darn good, and they rattle in the pocket. And then, I can't believe that didn't go. And I saw a lot of that, and it was like, you hope to see a lot of smiling, happy faces.
Yeah, it's pool though. That's not why people play.
It is pool, but when you make it too hard, a lot of your base loses interest. In my opinion.
Yeah, but at the same time, in my opinion, that's it goes back to what you're trying to do. I think, to me, the whole thing, at least since I've been around, the CSI and BCAPL, the whole thing they've tried to do to separate themselves from the other leagues is, if you're a player, no matter how good you are, we got somewhere for you to play. You're playing on the best equipment money can buy.
Yep.
You're not playing on valleys that have been in and out of trucks for 5 years, and all the rails are at different heights and all the pockets are different sizes. And I really believe that's a huge deal. Now, it's, pockets, a 4.5-inch pocket on a 7-foot table with good cloth and good balls. To me, that particular issue, I don't buy into that. Now, you start talking about rules and, some of the call your pocket or call safe or some of the other crap some of the pros are trying.
Yeah, right.
I don't buy into that at all. But to me, I think, I guess my thing is, a guy could hit a ball 2 diamonds off. And, you know what I mean?
I did that last night.
Go out to any league, right?
I couldn't believe it didn't go.
Yeah, it's tables, terrible, carpet's off. But, to me, I think that the equipment thing, because I know for a fact, we bring 10 people in here, and you say, should we open the pockets? Probably most of them will say no, even though it would benefit them. And here's a perfect thing. Look at the madness in California with these stupid 4-inch, 3 7/8, 3 3/4-inch pockets. That's not pool anymore.
No.
And I've seen people go and they espouse these pockets like, they're the best thing in the world, man. They make you a better player. But you know what?
They make you play pool different.
You don't know how to run out.
Yeah.
Because you can't, what you can do on a normal, good 4.5-inch diamond, you play different.
Yeah. Yeah, 9-ball becomes 1 pocket.
Yeah. And it's woo.
So,
but, yeah, anyway.
We talked about negatives. Let's talk about some of the positives. One, we kind of hit on these as we were rambling, but lots of amateur pool players.
Yep.
Lots of amateur pool players. I'm concerned that they're aging, and I don't see enough turnover to
that
make
was
up
actually
for the
something
difference.
we didn't touch on last time, but that's a major factor in what's going on with pool.
Yep.
Everybody's getting old. Very few younger people coming in, and on the pro side of the game, it's like the George Jones song, man. Who's going to fill their shoes?
Yep.
But
we've got lots of players, very passionate players in most cases.
Oh, yeah.
We got very passionate promoters. Look, folks, these guys don't make much money. I can tell you, there's nobody that I know of getting rich off of pool.
I've said this a million times, man. People say, blah, 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 you make all this money. Here's the thing. Think about this. If I knew I could profit $2,000 by holding a $25,000 added tournament, I knew when it was all said and done, at the end of it, after all the bills were paid, I could put $2,000 in my pocket. We'd be doing them every weekend. If you could make that, if it was that good a gig, you know what I mean? Or how about this? I'd even do it if you would guarantee me I wouldn't lose money. Now, how many $25,000 added tournaments are there this year? Turning Stone, US Open. What else? That's it. There's not one event at Derby that adds 20 to that, I don't think. Maybe they do. But so it's just, the guys that are doing it, guys like Mark, Greg Sullivan, Barry, I mean, he's a madman. He kills himself to do that tournament every year. And I've seen him year in and year out, and every year I ask myself, God, this guy's crazy.
It's funny, you know, no secret. I come from kind of a business background, but when I got here, I kind of chuckled because the discussion about pro events was, let's try not to lose as much as we did last year.
Absolutely.
The goal is to, we're going to lose some money, but let's try not to let's not break the bank on this one.
Right.
And I kind of chuckled because
it's sick, really, when you think about it.
Yeah, it is. And don't get me wrong, sometimes you have what we call loss leaders that add value in other ways, and you lose money on this thing, but it drives other pieces of your business. I got all that. But and I'm not going to, I won't share the numbers, but some of the numbers we're talking about is obscene. Yeah. Obscene losses on some of these events.
Yeah.
But that tells you that the promoters that are doing these things, now I know there's been talk about this promoter did this and that and the other thing. Some of that may or may not be valid, I don't know. But I can tell you that the guys that are doing it are not getting rich, and they're doing it out of pure love of the game, period. Even if it's guys I may not necessarily care for.
Right.
They're very passionate about what they're doing, and that's actually good. Another thing is there is tons of free instruction. If you want to become a better pool player, I mean, you can call up people to get lessons at no cost or very little cost. You got tons of resources on the internet, YouTube, all the video. We've got videos on the CSI YouTube channel with Tom Rossman giving free instruction.
Series on.
We paid him to film these videos for our members. Even if you're not a member, go there and watch it. Yeah. Free instruction. So there's lots of content. The days of hiring a instructor or going to the library to get an instructional book.
Not even that, but I mean, you've got guys like Darren Appleton. He's posted on Facebook before. You know, if he's home, I want to say it's like, I want to say the number is 500. I don't know if that's for 2 days or one full day, but he'll have you come to his home, and he will work with you one-on-one all day long. Mm-hmm. And I know Darren. If he says 8 hours, you're probably going to be there 10.
Yeah, and he's a world champion.
And, you know, he's one of the absolute best in the world at something. So whatever the price is, you know, $50 an hour for a 10-hour day. I mean, you can't get a plumber for $50. You can't get a locksmith for $50 an hour.
Yep.
I mean, but that's the, you know, all the way from that. So just go to YouTube, man. I mean, for God's sake.
Yep.
There's so much content there. Yeah, there's more information about the game now than ever before in history.
Yep.
No doubt.
Another thing, this is funny. One of the worst things that ever happened to pool, Justin, was the internet.
Best thing too.
One of the best things.
It's only alive.
One of the best things that ever happened to pool was the internet. Yeah. Internet and technology. That's why Justin's in pool.
Yeah.
I mean, he started TAR, and look where it went. It really kind of carved the path for all these streams that people enjoy, most of which are free.
We were on the front of it, no doubt about that.
So there are lots of positive things in pool. The trick is, how do you overcome the negatives, build on the positives, and create some new positives? So those are the kinds of things we sort of kick around and think about. And it's not all about doing things the way you've always done them and just processing your league sanctions.
You have to change some things, and I think, you know, I'm of the opinion that, you know, pick a direction, have a plan, you work that plan, you know, adjust where you can, when necessary, you know, but.
And if you're supposed to go left, don't go right.
Well, you know, it's got to make sense before you ever step off. I mean, at least there's got to be something on paper where you can put it together and say, you know, here it is, A plus B equals C. Mm-hmm. You know, and this is the goal. Now, has it been done before? Has it anything like it been close before? You know, what is our risk? What is the reward? I mean, so it's got to kind of make a little bit of sense. But it's just, and then if it doesn't work, it doesn't work. You know, you go do something else. Mm-hmm. But in pool, it just seems like, especially on the pro side, man, it's always the same story. Guy comes in selling the dream. He's got some money. Everybody jumps on board, crashes and burns, and now everybody's just done for 3 or 4 years.
Right.
You know?
Right.
So, but I'm personally, like I said, that's the reason I'm sitting right here right now, is because I believe that there is a good future. I mean, I believe that there is something. I believe it's going to be different than what's been in the past, because it has to be. You know, we have to take a different path. We have to change the way things are done, because right now it's going like this.
Well, you know, I say we at CSI, I truly think we are on a very good path for the future.
Right.
And it's not going to be instantaneous.
No.
It's going to take time. But these are just some of the things that we're starting to work on now. And they address some of the negatives that we talked about and feed on some of the positives. And these are not official programs that we've rolled out. There's no details. There's nothing else for me to say other than these are initiatives that we're going to be working on and thinking about over the coming months and years. I'd like us to develop some sort of CSI youth program. Yeah. We've got to address that concern about the aging pool playing population. And this is going to take time. This is not something you can throw together in a month and roll it out. There's a lot involved in something like this, but we need to get young people playing pool again, period. And it'll be better for everybody. And if that means that it's not just CSI, maybe it's CSI and some of its competitors.
Anything.
Or affiliates. Yeah. Or suppliers, or whatever. If we all have to work together.
I would argue that if I was going to, kids are great. You know, I kind of believe in realistic challenges. What I could see happening, I just don't see getting 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids involved in the game, because where do they play? Now, unless you're willing to build the infrastructure for them to play.
Well, and that's one of those hurdles to overcome. There's a lot of those.
I mean, as far as from a good thing for the industry standpoint, something that I could really see something that's, a year or two you could actually make some inroads would be the college scene. You know, there's how many colleges in this country, I mean, the school I went to had a couple of crappy tables in it, but, that's all over, and it's, to me, I think, where's the money come from? How does somebody do it, But I mean, I could see, and the flip side of that is, now you're getting a guy when he's 18, 19, 20, 21, so he can go play. He can go give direct benefit back to the industry or to the league that puts him together, that gets him interested in that game.
Yep.
I would love to sit here and see pool tables in elementary schools, and I think that's important. But at the same time, I think we have to be honest about what is the game. And the game is going to be a bar game in the future. That's my opinion. I mean, I just don't see it any other way. So if that's the case, I just feel like sometimes you're going to waste a lot of resources if you're out there trying to sell it as, bring little Johnny and his 11-year-old buddies over. I just don't. I think that's a false target, because I would love it if it is, but put it to you this way: everybody out there, look in the mirror. Would you let your 10 to 13-year-old son or daughter go to a pool room if they would even let them in?
Yep. Lots of hurdles.
Yeah.
Second one is kind of a initiative, growing our leagues. Obviously, that's the goal of any organization running leagues, but specifically, well, how do you do that? It's easy to say, how do you grow a league? And it depends on the nature of your league. How we grow our leagues would be vastly different than how some other organization might try to grow theirs. One thing I think we need to do is we have to have some type of league operator incentive-based program. Yes. Arguably, they already have an incentive to grow, but I think it needs to be stronger, much stronger, more direct. So I've already started working on some ideas about how to have a BCA pool league operator incentive program, so that they have more at stake.
Yeah.
Not really more at stake, but more to gain.
Yeah, absolutely.
From being part of our system. Also, player incentives. You know, a lot the misperception out there right now is a lot of players feel like the only benefit of being part of a BCA pool league is so that you can get qualified to go to nationals. And that's a misperception that we have to overcome. There's lots of other benefits to being a BCA pool league member, but we need to have more state, regional, and local events so that players see the benefit, not just get told about the benefit. We rattled off all these BCA Pool League, USA Pool League events coming up all over the country. We need to really pound that. We need to pound that and show the players the benefit. And they're not just it. There are other benefits too that they may not even realize. But we've got to overcome that perception. And again, more smaller local events. Sometimes people just can't take off work. Or they've got other responsibilities on the weekends and they can't drive 4 hours to some big state tournament. But I think we need to have more smaller local league tournaments that we can support. We can provide some added funding. We can do some other things. We've been making banners all this week for these different tournaments run by other entities, I might add, to just help them be able to promote and help them get more successful so they get the value of being part of it.
I mean, to me, I think that's, I mean, from CSI's point of view, I think that's super important is, you know, if you help other people do better, guess what, man?
CSI's got my back.
Yeah, exactly. And who, you know, where are they going to come when they have an opportunity, or who are they going to support? You know, so I'm 100% behind that, and I think it's really important.
Yep. The other thing is growing our tournaments. These state and regional tournaments, national tournament, of course. All the tournaments that we do, we need to grow those for obvious reasons, but also for some not so obvious reasons. One, if you grow your tournaments, you're going to grow your leagues, and vice versa. If you grow your leagues, you'll grow your tournaments. They feed each other. I think we've had this discussion, more free streaming of amateur events. We've got the capability. There's no reason we can't, for example, we go to the Southwest Regional. There's no reason we can't set up a basic stream. We don't even have to go all out with the full-blown spectacular lights and arena. But we could set up a nice stream table at some of these events, make it free. This is not about pay-per-view or viewership, but it's about providing a cool experience for the people there.
I've always been against streaming amateur events from my point of view, because I was trying to make money as a streamer.
Right.
From a league point of view, I think I'm just not sold on the whole the live stream aspect anymore. Very few events, in my opinion, gain a whole lot from a live stream. The value in anything is in the recording, because it's there forever.
Yep.
And it's a reference, and you can go back to it, and people can see it. So whether you live stream or not,
I agree. You're making the difference between live and recorded.
Right.
Yeah.
But there is a difference in how you produce it and what you do and the things it takes to do it.
Right.
But
I would agree with you that recording, setting up an arena and being able to record a match is much more important than the live aspect.
Right.
I agree,
and
100%.
If, you know, there's ways you can do it, and I've talked about it. Some people have made attempts to do it. It really is a technical pain in the ass. And at the same time, you got to pay somebody to be there to do it. Because people are not just, I mean, it's...
You don't work for free?
No. I mean, you're talking about 10, 12 hours a day. And it's funny because I've had people, you know, the stuff we do, I mean, you're sitting in it just like, you're not digging ditches. No, you're not. But come work the bar table with me or nationals or something. Yeah. You know, and we'll see how you feel after 4 or 5 days. You know, I mean, it's trust me, I've worked for a living. It's better than that, but you know, it's not something somebody's going to take off and just, you know, do for free.
Right.
So, but I think if you could do that, if you could show, and to me, it's also, you have a point of diminishing returns. If you're not going to have some production value, if you're not going to have commentators, if you're not going to have a scoreboard, if it's just going to be a camera.
Oh, I agree, yeah.
Then anybody can. A guy can bring his own. They do it all the time. They sit at the end of the table and then they do that.
Yeah.
So to me, the experience for the amateur player is the arena, the commentators, the whole nine, being the focus of that. And I absolutely think that would add value to an amateur player, especially teams and things like that. We talked about maybe doing something like that this year, and it just didn't work out. We didn't get to it in time. And I would guess probably next year at Nationals that will happen for some of the finals.
Yep.
So yeah, I agree 100% that's value adding, and I think it's something that we as a league as CSI can do, really, that no one else. I mean anybody could do anything with money, but I mean we have the capability in house. It's just a matter of setting it up and doing it.
Yep.
But yeah, so I agree. But things like that for adding value to the players.
Yep. I think, and we are guilty of this. I think we need to have better press coverage of our amateur events.
Absolutely.
Some would make the argument that, well, do you really want to pick up Billiards Digest, for example, and read about Joe Blow won this division at this amateur tournament? Well, you know what? A lot of people won't, but a lot of people will, especially the people that know Joe Blow. And more importantly, Joe Blow's going to like it.
Well, the other thing, too, is I'm a firm believer that if the coverage consists of a blurry cell phone photo and a one-paragraph write-up, I don't care what the event is. It could be the World Series. Nobody's going to pay attention to that.
Right.
But if you do something quality that looks cool with a good photograph, perfect example, you look at what JP did with some of our photos from the Nationals.
Yep.
He's got photographs of different amateur players at the event. You take something like that to grab somebody's attention, and then maybe you do 3 or 4 paragraphs about, okay, here's XYZ. He's from here. This is what he does for a living. He's been playing pool this long. This is, you tell a story.
Yep.
Everybody will read stories. If they see something that interests them that will catch their eye, they'll read that story. So to me, I think that's a big thing, and I think it's something that I think we're going to plan on focusing on.
Absolutely.
And I think that's something and this is another huge thing we're doing now, is it's farther down here. But I would like to see the new website we're working on to have some sort of place where we can, to me, as a, CSI as a league, the people who win our championships, they're a resource.
Yep.
I mean, they really are. And because, you look at the history of who's won some of these events, and they've gone on to be phenomenal, world-class players.
Mm-hmm.
But, you look at that, and I think, if you don't write your history down, then it never happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I've lived that with tar. I mean, there's so many people come in and they say, well, I heard about this match, but I mean, where do I find all this stuff? And I can't take and point them somewhere.
Right.
That's coherent. And we can't either.
Right.
We can't say, look at the tradition. That tournament you won this year, look who won it 20 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean.
Yeah, and that's a good segue. We're building a new website. It's going to replace the 3 that we have now. We have playcsipool.com, playbca.com, playusapool.com. Each of those is for our 2 leagues and then the parent company. We're creating one website. If you're only interested in USA Pool League stuff, you can go right to that section of the site. If you're only interested in BCA Pool League things, you can go directly to that portion, or you can look at all of it. And it's going to be much more user-friendly. It's going to be easier to maintain.
It's going to be so much nicer.
It's going to be laid out better.
Yeah.
And it's going to have a lot of those cool pictures and things that Justin was talking about that we, quite frankly, this is my fault. I'll take the blame. We should have done a better job of covering the results of our national championships. Quite frankly, I want to get it on this site rather than worry about updating the old one. Mm-hmm. We're pushing in that direction hard, and we're hoping to have it done by the end of this year. Again, I mentioned this last podcast 2 weeks ago. We've got some internal changes going on too, folks. We've instituted some new processes. We've changed some policies. We've done a little restructuring. We've got some employer things working out. We got a lot of things in the background that people don't think about, and they're very, very, very good changes, and I think it's set us on a good path. And we need to figure out how to construct pro events so that they actually help support the amateur events and vice versa, not remain completely separate. Justin has the answer. He's not sharing it with me yet.
I'm of the opinion that, for one thing, CSI doesn't really do pro events. They do one.
Yeah.
I wouldn't even argue that the bar table is a pro event. I don't think.
It's an open event.
I don't think it should be billed as a pro event.
It's an open event that draws some pro players.
Right. So I would make an argument that, Mark has said it over and over and over again. He does pro events at nationals to add to the atmosphere, and it does.
It does.
People notice it. So I have some ideas about, what I would like to see that turn into. I'm always right, but no one ever listens, so we'll see how it works next year.
They listen, they just don't do anything.
Yeah.
All right, my favorite part of the podcast, Griffinisms. I like the little bar there. That's a nice touch. That was 40 years ago.
Look at those little wide eyes.
We got a saying.
So full of hope and wonder.
We've got a saying here in the office that I actually stole from a comedian. But it's, you can say anything about anybody as long as you say bless his heart at the end of it.
Yeah.
Yep.
Bless his heart.
Mark Griffin has not given me much to work with for Griffinisms. He's been very low key.
Luckily for you and you, guess what? Who you got on deck over here?
We have a new staff member who is near and dear to my heart. Stephen Kwan. He's actually, Justin, he's doing your job right now because you're doing Mark Griffin's job.
Yeah. He's done a hell of a job, too. A couple of slips, but no more than I usually make.
That's okay.
He's done a good job.
Stephen, he's new to CSI. He's helped us on a temporary basis for a while. He helped me run the Action Pool Tour, did a fantastic job. Quick learner, great guy, gives me a lot of Griffinisms, and I'm going to call him out. I've got one written down, and I've got a couple more that I think I've never told you.
Okay.
And I purposely didn't tell you before this because I want to get your reaction. But here's the one that's written down. Stephen Kwan will be running the Florida Regional 8-Ball Championships in November. We're talking about his flight. And he says, I'm going to buy a one-way ticket to Florida and back. I had to write that down. We need a laugh box. We can... one-way ticket to Florida and back. Here's another one. This happened last year. I was flying out here to talk to Mark Griffin about this job.
Yeah.
I didn't even know we were talking about this job when I came out. I thought we were just coming to kick around some ideas. Stephen is driving me to the airport, Norfolk Airport, Norfolk, Virginia. It's 6 in the morning. The sun is just breaking over the horizon. We're driving along, and Stephen says, wow, the sun looks like it's on fire.
I guess it's all in how you look at the world, man.
And here's one more. There's two more. Which one do I want to do first? We're planning the trip for me to move from Virginia to Nevada. Stephen's going to help us move. And he says, well, what states are we going to go through? I said, I looked at it one time, but I don't really remember. I said, Virginia, obviously, Tennessee. I said, I think Arkansas and Texas and Oklahoma and New Mexico and Arizona. He said, New Mexico, do we need a passport? And one more. This was actually a picture. I wish I had it, that we could flash it on the screen. I didn't think about it. I asked him to make iced tea.
He's laughing.
And he said, I don't even know how to make iced tea. I said, come on, man. How hard can it be? You boil water with tea bags in it. He says, oh, okay. I walk over to the stove 10 minutes later. He's got a pot on the stove. It's filled with ice water. And he's boiling it. It's iced tea.
Tell me you were trolling him. Was he trolling you? Or
to be fair, because I don't want everybody to think Steven's stupid. He's not. When I said New Mexico, he thought I said Mexico.
Explain the ice, though.
The ice. The ice, we have a...
I saw that photo on Facebook.
What, you saw it? Yeah. It's a refrigerator, water, and ice dispenser. And when he was just going to put the pot up there to get the filtered water because we don't want the stuff out of the tap. And when he presses it, it still had a bunch of ice stuck up at the top, and it fell into the pot. And being a good conservationist, he didn't want to throw the ice down the drain.
All right. That's good. That's better.
But I do like to embellish it just to make fun of him.
That's good. Okay. I was going to say, we're going to have to take your sharp items away from you.
All right. Questions from AZ Billiards. We only got a couple.
Yeah, we got to wrap it up, too. We're going on almost 2 hours now.
This will be quick. Wedge, good friend of mine, actually. I say good friend. He's a friend of mine from Maryland. Great guy. Karen just finished second in the American 14.1 tournament, losing to Darren Appleton in the finals. Along the way, she ran an 83 and out in an earlier match and also defeated Mike DeShane 125 to -2. Karen is now playing at Turning Stone, next at the winner-take-all 17K International Tournament of Champions at Harrah's in San Diego, and next the Women's World 9-Ball in China. Point being, what are the rest of the top U.S.-based women players doing? I don't know.
Jennifer's playing Turning Stone. I don't know.
I don't know. Frank, I wish I could answer. Don't know the answer to that.
Lose the Griffinisms.
T. Duncan, is the Kamui Challenge going to be released anytime soon on Vimeo or YouTube? At some point, it will be. I should run for office, right?
Yeah, right.
Anytime soon part.
Actually, we talked about doing the on-demand through Vimeo.
We did. We've kicked around some ideas. I will guarantee you that at some point in the near future, it will be available through one of those means. I
vote YouTube.
Justin votes YouTube.
Free is better.
And he's bigger than I am.
Free is better.
By the way, I actually asked Justin to lower his seat as far as it would go. He's about 3 inches off the floor.
You put that chair on a box.
Just because he looked like a behemoth next to me. Made me feel a little inadequate. But Straight Pool IU, this is the last one. Turning Stone predictions. Got any predictions for Turning Stone?
Shane, Mika, Toasty. Is Darren playing?
I would assume so.
I'll take one of those 4.
You sure?
Yeah.
I'll have the rest of the field.
Yeah.
Even?
Yeah. if you'll fall for that, yeah, I'd do that all day.
Okay. Comments on Shane versus Shaw, race to 100. It was a good match. I don't know what else to say about it. It's 100 to 93. Shane wins.
Yeah, I heard he closed out with a package, which is pretty sweet. Shane's been known to do that kind of crap.
I will say, who got to 21 first?
I didn't watch it.
I think the answer is Shane, which means a race to 100 versus 21 didn't tell me anything different in that case.
Yeah. Race to 100, man, unless ain't nobody fooled more of them than I have. And in my opinion, they're good for certain things. It's pretty rare. I can't think of right now a match that I would want to see a race to 100 in. I mean, I'm glad I'm glad Jason, that was an exhibition. I wouldn't call that I don't know. I'm not the guy to ask about that kind of stuff because I've got very biased opinions. But,
It was a great match, though. I think everybody expected Shane to win by a bigger margin. Jason held it close. Jason's a good player. And I actually enjoyed having him out in July.
Yeah, Jason did good.
Yep. How does that compare to the epic race to 100s that Justin has
I would
seen
argue
produced?
that the things we did really didn't have a whole lot in common with what they did, other than the fact that it was just a similar format. I don't know. I could go into it. It doesn't do any good to get into what I think of how it was. If people enjoyed it and they liked it, that's good. Hopefully the room made some money on it so they can do more of it. It's more opportunities for the players. It's not the way I would have done it, but I'm not the one doing it. So if it worked for them, I'm glad.
Yep. Well, that's all I got.
That's it.
Anything else you'd like to say?
No, it was fun though. I enjoyed being on this side of the camera. I'll have to do
More often, maybe.
Yeah.
Well,
And instead of being shorter, I think we were longer.
Yeah. Well, thanks to Steven. He ran the equipment tonight.
Good job, man.
He had a 15-minute training session with Justin. Got him all squared away. Justin said he could guarantee that he trained him, but he could not guarantee his performance.
We're coming up on the tricky part right now. He did the intro. We'll see if he can get us out.
All right. Good night, everybody. 2 more weeks. We'll do it again.